Aliens land on a ruined, frozen Earth, convinced humanity is extinct. They set up scanners and archaeology bots, mocking Earth's primitive past, until one of them swears they hear faint laughter echoing from beneath the rubble. The scanners read silence, but silence can lie. That was the first thing Dr. Hfy thought as her excavation drones descended into the white glare of a ruined Earth. The planet looked like a corpse, oceans crystallized into jagged ice plains, continents split by scars of old wars, skyscrapers broken into jagged teeth gnawing at the sky. To her, it was nothing but history's rubble. To the rest of the crew, it was a joke. "Behold!" sneered Commander Kuroth, sweeping a clawed hand across the icy wasteland. "The once proud home of the Terrans. A graveyard of monkeys who thought themselves conquerors." Several of the younger officers chuckled. One even kicked a half-buried metal sign with strange blocky letters. "What does it say?" asked another. The drone translated, "Parking lot, employees only." The aliens burst into laughter, their armored bodies shaking. "Imagine," Kuroth jeered, "a warrior species felled by their own ridiculous rituals. Reserved spaces. What a savage superstition." Dr. Hfy sighed and adjusted her respirator. She'd studied humans her entire career. They weren't glorious, but they weren't fools either. Every time she raised that point, however, she was ignored. To most of the galaxy, humanity was a myth wrapped in dust. "Careful," she muttered. "Mocking ruins is easy, but ruins have teeth." Her words vanished into the wind. The dig began at dawn, if dawn could be said to exist on a planet where the sun was filtered through endless gray storm clouds. Excavation beams cut into frozen steel. Drones whirred, lifting debris the size of starships. The aliens picked through artifacts like children rummaging through a toy chest. One soldier held up a cracked disk. "Primitive data core?" The AI translated, "Greatest hits, Bon Jovi." "Sounds like a weapon," the soldier said. "Perhaps a prayer tablet," another guessed. Dr. Hfy almost laughed, but then she heard it, faint, distorted, like static bending into shape. A sound that didn't belong to the wind. It was laughter. She froze. "Did anyone hear?" "No chatter during operations," Kuroth snapped. "We are professionals, not ghost hunters." But she knew what she'd heard. By midday they had uncovered the skeleton of an old city. Towers leaned against each other like drunks at closing time. Rusted cars lay fused into the ice. On the horizon, a toppled statue's head peeked out, face half crushed but eyes staring upward in quiet defiance. One officer climbed onto the crumbling steps of a museum, holding up a battered object. "Commander, we've found their weapons." He displayed a wooden bat, cracked down the middle. Kuroth snorted. So the great humans fought their wars with sticks. How pitiful. The drone's AI spoke up, "Baseball bat. Civilian sporting equipment." The officer frowned. "So, not a weapon?" "Only if swung correctly," murmured Dr. Hfy. No one laughed this time. That night, as they camped among the ruins, something stirred beneath them. Seismic scanners picked up faint tremors. At first the crew assumed the ice was shifting. Then a soldier reported hearing voices through the comms. Not alien dialects, but something older, rougher, deliberate. Kuroth dismissed it as echoes. Yet unease spread. Dr. Hfy sat near the firelight, staring at the blackened windows of a half-collapsed skyscraper. She felt eyes there watching. "Commander," she whispered, "what if they aren't dead?" Kuroth gave her a hard glare. "Impossible. No species could survive this desolation for centuries." "Impossible things have a habit of happening," she replied. The answer came at dawn. They had just unearthed the mouth of a massive underground vault. The doors were intact, smooth, black, reinforced. Alien lasers sparked against its surface without leaving a mark. Then, as if mocking their efforts, the doors slowly opened by themselves. Out of the dark stepped a man. He looked human in every detail. Tall, lean, wearing a black uniform frayed at the edges. His hands were clasped behind his back, posture almost too perfect. His face was pale, weathered, with sharp eyes that scanned the aliens like a teacher regarding noisy students. He smiled. "Visitors," he said in flawless galactic trade tongue. His voice was warm, almost welcoming. "You must have traveled far. I'm Captain Elias Grant. May I offer you breakfast?" Silence. The aliens froze, weapons half-raised. Dr. Vesh's throat went dry. Kuroth barked. "Identify yourself. Humanity is extinct." Elias tilted his head slightly, as though considering the claim. "Extinct? Ah, we've been called worse. But no, Commander. We're very much alive. You simply weren't invited." The soldiers tensed. Dr. Vesh noticed his composure. No fear, no confusion, just that calm, polite smile. A smile that unsettled her more than any weapon could. One officer sneered. "You are a relic, a remnant. Nothing more." "Perhaps," Elias said softly. "Yet remnants can be sharp, if handled carelessly." The aliens whispered among themselves. Some dismissed him as a hermit survivor. Others felt the chill that Dr. Vesh felt. Something about his presence suggested he wasn't alone. Kuroth stepped forward, baring teeth. "State your purpose." "My purpose?" Elias raised an eyebrow. "Why, to welcome you. Hospitality is important to us, you see. Guests should always feel comfortable." There was something in the way he lingered on that word, comfortable, that made even Kuroth hesitate. Dr. Vesh found herself speaking. "How many of you are there?" Elias's smile widened. "Enough. More than you'll be comfortable with." The commander snarled. "You dare threaten the Empire?" Elias's tone remained smooth. "Threaten? Oh no. I'm simply informing you. Information, after all, is a gift." A soldier whispered to another, "He's unarmed. Why do I feel like we're the ones cornered?" The laughter returned then, soft, echoing from the vault behind Elias. Not one voice, but many. The aliens stiffened. Elias took a step closer, folding his hands behind him once more. "You've come to dig graves. Very well. But you may find the wrong bones." The storm clouds above rumbled. Somewhere deep beneath the ruins, machinery hummed awake. Dr. Vesh's heart hammered. She finally understood. The silence had been a lie. Humanity had been waiting. The alien camp was no longer loud. Jokes about apes with sticks had vanished. The soldiers now kept their weapons trained on Elias Grant, yet none of them dared fire. He stood calm, hands still behind his back, like a lecturer waiting for a restless class to quiet down. Dr. Vesh studied him closely. His uniform bore no insignia, no rank markers, yet his posture screamed command. Every word he spoke landed like a carefully aimed dart, gentle on the surface, barbed underneath. Kuroth broke the silence first. "Where are the others? How many survived?" Elias smiled pleasantly. "Enough to hold a conversation. Enough to remember who we are." "Answer clearly," the commander snapped. "Oh, but I am." Elias's eyes narrowed just slightly. "You're asking for numbers. Numbers are dangerous things. They tell you where your confidence should lie. And I'd hate to mislead you into confidence." The soldiers shifted uneasily. Dr. Vesh caught herself staring at his hands. Not a tremor. No tension. Either he was suicidal, or he knew something they didn't. One soldier, braver, or more foolish than the rest, stepped forward. "You're bluffing. You survived in caves, gnawing on rats. You're no threat." Elias regarded him like a patient parent. "Rats are an excellent source of protein. But no, we didn't gnaw. We cultivated. We built. We prepared. Tell me, do you often assume the quiet neighbor is harmless?" The soldier faltered, claws tightening on his weapon. Elias leaned in slightly, his voice dropping into a conspiratorial whisper. "The quiet ones usually know where the knives are kept." Dr. Vesh almost laughed despite herself. The line was absurd, but the way he delivered it chilled the air. She watched Kuroth bristle, his spines rising. "You're surrounded," the commander barked. "One man against 30 soldiers." 30 soldiers against one man, Elias corrected politely. Funny how the arithmetic changes depending on perspective. Kuroth snarled. "We could kill you before you take another breath." Elias gave a small nod. "Yes, you could. But then you'd never know who else is listening." The laughter came again, faint, echoing from the vault behind him. Not recorded. Not mechanical. Alive. Dr. Vesh's chest tightened. She saw shadows moving in the darkness beyond Elias, shapes that stood too still to be illusions. One of the younger officers whispered, How long have you been down there?" Elias answered without turning. "Long enough to let arrogance soften the galaxy. Long enough to sharpen ourselves while you all looked the other way." Dr. Vesh stepped forward, her curiosity stronger than her fear. "Why reveal yourselves now? Why not remain hidden?" His gaze met hers, and for the first time she felt the weight of something ancient behind his eyes. "Because you dug too deep. And because it was time." Kuroth barked an order. "Secure him. Restrain the survivor before he spreads more nonsense." 2 soldiers advanced, weapons raised. Elias didn't move. He didn't even flinch as they approached. "Careful," he said calmly. "Hospitality ends where disrespect begins." The soldiers grabbed his arms, only for the ground beneath them to rumble. The frozen earth split open as metallic hands shot upward, seizing their weapons and crushing them like paper. Drones. Human drones. Sleek, black, angular, their eyes glowing a cold blue. They emerged from the vault in silence, surrounding Elias like hounds around a master. The alien camp erupted into chaos. Soldiers raised rifles, claws on triggers, but none fired. The drones held their weapons steady, mechanical fingers tightening just enough to show intent. Elias, still smiling, spoke above the tension. "I recommend calm. These aren't toys. They don't like sudden gestures." Dr. Vesh whispered to herself, "They rebuilt. They actually rebuilt." Elias tilted his head toward her. "Not rebuilt, Doctor. Improved. You study us, yes? Then you know patience is the most underestimated weapon in the galaxy." "Patience doesn't win wars," Kuroth spat. Elias finally allowed a faint chuckle. "No. But it wins them before they start." The soldiers looked to their commander for orders. Kuroth hesitated, pride battling fear. Dr. Vesh saw the indecision in his eyes and realized Elias was counting on it. "You want to frighten us," Kuroth growled. "Frighten you?" Elias shook his head. "No, Commander. Fear is fleeting. I want you to understand. Understanding lasts." "And what are we supposed to understand?" "That graves are for the dead," Elias said softly. "And we never died." Dr. Vesh felt her throat tighten. She could almost hear history rewriting itself in that moment. One of the younger officers panicked, firing a bolt of plasma at a drone. The shot sizzled harmlessly against its armor. The drone retaliated instantly, tearing the weapon from his grip and pinning him to the ground. Elias sighed as though mildly inconvenienced. Children touching stoves. Always the same outcome. Kuroth raised his blade. "Enough riddles. What do you want?" "What do I want?" Elias repeated, as though the question amused him. "To offer tea. To talk. To remind the galaxy that we're still here. And perhaps," his smile thinned, "to decide who deserves to remain." Dr. Vesh finally spoke, her voice low but steady. "You lured us here." Elias inclined his head. "Not you specifically. Curiosity was bait enough. We knew someone would dig eventually. Congratulations. You won the prize." "And the prize is death?" His eyes flickered. "The prize is perspective. Whether it includes death depends on your choices." The wind howled through the ruins, rattling broken glass in the skeletal towers. The aliens stood frozen, uncertain whether to fight, flee, or listen. Elias Grant remained perfectly still, framed by his silent machines. Dr. Vesh realized the balance of power had already shifted. 30 armed soldiers weren't facing one man. They were facing an idea, one that had been sharpening itself in the dark for centuries. And the idea smiled at them like an old friend. The drones formed a perfect circle, blue eyes glowing against the ice. Their silence was worse than a growl. It implied confidence, inevitability. The aliens held weapons half-raised, but no one dared pull the trigger. Elias stood at the center, posture relaxed. His voice carried over the wind with calm precision. "You've seen the ruins, the frozen towers, the broken monuments. Convincing, isn't it? That's the point of theater." Dr. Vesh felt the word theater burrow into her mind. She looked around at the toppled buildings and cracked streets. Could it all be staged? Kuroth snarled, "You expect us to believe humanity faked its own extinction?" Elias's smile sharpened. "Do you know the best way to win a war, Commander? Convince your enemies they already won. Then let them grow complacent." The statement landed like a blade. One officer scoffed nervously. "You're lying. No species could hide this long." "Hide?" Elias chuckled. "We weren't hiding. We were pruning. Shedding the noise. Waiting for arrogance to grow fat." He turned slightly, gesturing toward the vault. "Would you like a tour? It's only polite to show guests around the house." Before Kuroth could respond, the ground shifted. Ice cracked as enormous panels slid aside, revealing an entrance large enough for a warship. Lights flickered on, cutting through centuries of darkness. A vast tunnel descended, lined with steel and humming with power. Dr. Vesh's jaw tightened. Entire cities had been buried beneath their feet, invisible to scanners. Kuroth barked an order. "Do not follow him. He's baiting us." Elias stepped onto the platform as though conducting a museum tour. "Of course I am. But isn't curiosity your defining trait? Why else dig up graves that don't belong to you?" His drones moved in sync, parting to form a path downward. Dr. Vesh found her legs moving before her mind caught up. She whispered, "I need to see." "No one moves." Kuroth roared. Elias looked back, meeting Kuroth's eyes with the faintest trace of pity. "Commander, you've mistaken leadership for volume. Shouting doesn't make you tall." The insult was so politely delivered it left Kuroth momentarily speechless. Inside the vault, the air was warm. Lights hummed along the walls, powered by systems that had never died. They passed corridors filled with machines, rows of sleek vehicles under tarps, and sealed doors marked with human symbols. Dr. Vesh whispered, "You preserved all of this underground?" Elias nodded. "Not preserved. Expanded. You think of Earth as ruins, but this is the real Earth. The surface was just a costume." One soldier muttered, "Impossible." "Impossible," Elias said, "is the word people use right before they're proven wrong." They entered a chamber so vast it swallowed their voices. Catwalks stretched over a cavern bristling with black ships, their hulls sharp and angled, engines pulsing with quiet menace. Drones crawled along their surfaces, maintaining them like bees tending a hive. The aliens froze. Kuroth's voice cracked. "Warships. Dozens of them." "Hundreds," Elias corrected gently. "And that's just this sector." Dr. Vesh nearly stumbled. "The galaxy thought you extinct." "Yes." Elias's tone was almost amused. "Which means they stopped watching." "That's when patience does its best work." One officer whispered, "Why reveal this to us?" "Because," Elias said, pacing the catwalk, "understanding must spread. You'll return to your empire and deliver warnings. But by then, our hand will already be on the board." Dr. Vesh studied him carefully. "You want us to warn the galaxy?" Elias glanced at her with approval. At last, someone listening. "Yes. Fear travels faster than fleets." By the time your rulers react, they'll discover they're already surrounded. Kuroth roared, slamming his blade against the railing. You're bluffing. This is one facility, one fleet. It cannot stand against the Empire. Elias turned, eyes cold now. Commander, do you think predators roar before striking? No. They wait in silence. They measure the wind. Then, when the prey is certain it's safe, he snapped his fingers. The sound echoed like a gunshot. They pounce. As if on cue, the cavern filled with a deep vibration. More panels opened, revealing tunnels leading farther than the eye could follow. Faint lights glimmered in the distance, suggesting endless networks. Dr. Vesh whispered, "Not one fleet, thousands." The aliens shifted in panic. Weapons trembled in their hands. Elias's tone softened again, disarmingly polite. "Don't misunderstand. We don't want war. We want balance. But balance requires reminding the arrogant of their weight." Kuroth spat. "You mean domination?" Elias tilted his head. "Domination is a blunt word. We prefer correction." The laughter came again, but now it was closer. Human figures emerging from the shadows. Men and women in the same black uniforms, armed yet calm. They stood at attention, eyes focused, movements precise. Their presence confirmed the truth. Elias wasn't a relic. He was a commander among many. One of the humans approached and saluted. "Captain, Sectors 4 through 7 report readiness. Shall we proceed?" Elias gave a small nod. "Not yet. Let our guests absorb the view." Dr. Vesh's stomach sank. This wasn't a discovery. It was an unveiling. The officer who'd mocked Elias earlier whispered to Kuroth, "We should leave. Now." Elias overheard, his ears sharp. "Oh, you may leave. We're not cruel. But you won't leave unchanged." "What do you mean?" Dr. Vesh asked quietly. He met her gaze. "You'll carry stories. Fear. Doubt. You'll spread it through your empires like cracks in glass. And when the glass shatters, we'll step through." The words weren't shouted. They didn't need to be. Kuroth attempted defiance. If humanity thinks it can challenge the galaxy, it will be crushed. Elias finally let the mask slip. His voice dropped, polite veneer sharpening into something lethal. "Commander, tell me, how do you crush something already buried in your soil? How do you fight an enemy who's been living in your shadow for centuries, mapping your strengths, memorizing your flaws?" Kuroth's mouth opened, then closed. No answer came. Dr. Vesh realized she was shaking. Not from fear of death, but from the enormity of what this meant. Humanity hadn't simply survived. They had waited. Elias turned back to the fleet below, his silhouette framed by cold light. "The galaxy will remember humanity. Not as ruins. Not as myth. But as the storm that follows silence." His polite smile returned, sharper than any weapon. "And you, dear guests, are the messengers." The cavern's silence pressed like a weight. Engines purred faintly beneath the black ships, a steady heartbeat that promised violence without lifting a weapon. The alien delegation stood frozen, eyes darting between the endless tunnels and the calm man who treated apocalypse as polite conversation. Elias broke the quiet with a voice soft enough to draw everyone closer. "I believe you've seen enough." Kuroth stiffened. "We've seen enough to know your bluff will fail." But the strain in his tone betrayed him. Dr. Vesh shot him a warning glance. "Commander." Elias raised a hand, silencing them both without force. His composure had the weight of authority sharper than any blade. "A bluff requires risk. Tell me, where do you see risk? Here. With you surrounded? With your empire blind to the shadow inside its walls?" One of Kuroth's soldiers snapped, unable to hold back. "Why let us live? Why not kill us now?" Elias turned his gaze to the young officer, expression almost fatherly. "Because your death ends a story. But your survival carries it. Fear travels best on living tongues." The soldier fell silent, trembling. Dr. Vesh forced herself to speak. If you've hidden fleets for centuries, why reveal them at all? You had the advantage in silence. Elias regarded her with approval. An excellent question. The answer is simple. Silence wins only until it becomes noise. Now the galaxy believes it hears whispers of humans returning. Those whispers must be fed, not denied. Doubt is more corrosive than fleets. It rots alliances, sparks paranoia, breaks empires from within. By the time you rally to fight us, you will already be fractured. Kuroth barked bitter laughter. So the trap is fear? That's your great weapon? Elias leaned forward, voice sharpening. No, Commander. The trap is trust. You trusted ruins. You trusted silence. You trusted victory. Every stone you walked over on Earth whispered lies you chose to believe. And now? He gestured toward the ships, the soldiers, the tunnels. Now the illusion ends. Alarms echoed suddenly through the cavern. Sharp, mechanical, urgent. Human officers moved with swift precision, checking consoles. One approached Elias. Captain, surface monitors report incoming scans. Multiple empires triangulating signals. Our curtain is slipping. Elias didn't flinch. As expected. He looked back to the aliens. Do you see? Even now, your governments are sniffing at doors we left cracked open. Curious animals, rushing toward the bait. Dr. Vesh's heart sank. You wanted them to detect you. Of course. Elias's calm returned, almost kind. A secret is worthless if it stays buried. But a half-seen secret, that builds legends. Legends breed panic. Kuroth's fury flared. You can't possibly think panic will topple empires. Not by itself, Elias agreed, eyes glittering. But panic pushes rulers into mistakes. Mistakes carve fractures. And we, his gaze swept across the delegation, we specialize in widening fractures. The chamber lights dimmed. Vast hangar doors began to part overhead, spilling icy air as the surface opened to the night sky. Snow swirled inward, and above, the stars waited, cold witnesses. One ship rumbled awake, lifting from its cradle with terrifying grace. Its engines burned pale blue, illuminating the cavern. The sheer scale dwarfed the alien delegation, reminding them they were insects standing at the edge of a storm. Dr. Vesh whispered, "It's real. All of it's real." Elias's polite smile returned. You doubted me until you saw a shadow move. That's the nature of your kind. That's why this works. Kuroth finally snapped. Enough riddles. If you mean to start a war, then strike. Stop playing at ghosts. Elias's smile vanished. His tone hardened into steel. War has already started, Commander. You simply failed to notice when the first stone fell. The humans around them shifted, forming silent ranks. None raised weapons. They didn't need to. Presence alone was suffocating. Elias looked once more at the delegation. You will return. You will speak. You will argue, deny, panic, warn. Every word you utter will serve us. And when fleets gather to strike at Earth, they will discover too late the truth. The fleet was never the trap. Dr. Vesh felt her throat tighten. Then what is? Elias stepped closer, lowering his voice until even the silence seemed to lean in. Integration. For centuries, we have placed agents, technologies, whispers into your systems. Every empire that claimed our extinction has already been touched by us. Your supply chains, your codes, your leaders' advisors. You came here searching for ruins. What you found was your own reflection, already cracked. The realization hit harder than any weapon. This wasn't an army preparing to march. It was an infection already inside the bloodstream. The massive ship above them cleared the hangar, vanishing into the frozen night. Its engines carved streaks across the sky, a silent declaration. Elias folded his hands behind his back, voice calm once more. The galaxy thinks it is watching humanity return. But the truth is simpler. Humanity never left. We were always here, just waiting for the right moment to remind you. Dr. Vesh stared at him, her scientific detachment crumbling into raw dread. What happens now? Elias inclined his head as though considering hospitality. Now. You leave. Carry your warnings. Debate them. Let your rulers waste time arguing while the foundation beneath them softens to ash. And when they're finally ready to act, his eyes narrowed, polite calm hardening into promise. They will discover the war ended before it began. Kurotha's soldiers looked to their commander for orders, but for the first time, Kuroth said nothing. His jaw clenched, eyes burning, yet no words came. Elias studied him, then spoke with chilling softness. Do not feel ashamed, Commander. Predators rarely realize when they've been hunted from the start. The delegation was escorted back through the tunnels in silence, the weight of revelation heavier than the ice above. The vault doors sealed behind them with a hiss, erasing the glimpse of humanity's hidden heart. Outside, the night was quiet. Too quiet. Even the stars felt sharper. Kuroth finally broke the silence. We cannot let this stand. We must. Dr. Vesh cut him off, voice trembling. Must what? Raise alarms? They want us to. Every word we speak feeds their design. Don't you see? We've already lost the moment we believed Earth was dead. Kurotha's fists clenched, but he had no answer. Behind them, unseen in the icy winds, more ships began to rise from the hidden vaults. One after another, black silhouettes climbed into the stars. The storm had awakened, and the galaxy had no idea it was already inside its walls.